Shine.fm presents Stronger Together, a show about growing in marriage, parenting, relationships, and community. Here's Seth Tower Hurd.
Stronger Together. Tim and Denise Harlow join me. We're talking marriage, and I specifically wanted to dive into, having a great marriage after you maybe had a rough few months or a rough year or a rough season, because this is something that you guys are at Parkview Christian Church in the southwest suburbs of Chicago area, multiple locations. This is something you've been pretty transparent about, and I've been married 3 years now with kid number 1 on the way, so I know that kind of changes the whole dynamic, right? And something one of my friends said really just made me snap up and pay attention, just to make sure that I'm doing what I can for my marriage every day, and that Amanda's doing the same thing. He said, I've seen so many people get divorced where one of them thinks they're in really bad shape and the other one thinks that, things are okay. And then by the time the one that thinks things are okay is ready to work on it, the other one's just done. And
that's true.
So I thought about that, how many people who listen to Shine.fm either are there right now or might find themselves there in the future. And how do we just have some voices that can speak into this to where this can end happily ever after and not in court?
I'll go, can't end happily ever after until you're dead. So let that one go. And I guess the advantage for us is that our marriage was so bad that both of us realized it was that bad.
Okay.
That's true.
Not where I thought we were going to go, but here we are.
I mean, am I right or am I right?
You're right.
But to your point, I mean, talking to the people that are out there, they're like, I think we need help. And my spouse is saying, no, we don't need help. Just, tune them into this. Do whatever you can. Put your foot down. Say, look, I really, really, really think we need some help. And the number one defense is, well, we can't afford it. It's going to cost money. Mm-hmm. And the answer to that is, do you have any idea how much a divorce costs? Do you want to look at the scale of economy if we don't make it? Yeah, mm-hmm. It's going to cost us to get some counseling. It may cost us to, some time or whatever to make these things happen. But we really, really need to do this.
Yeah.
And if I could just jump in right there, because it maybe you check out the whole Christian radio thing because you find it's a positive influence in your life, but you're not going to church anywhere for at all right now, or maybe haven't for years. I would say the first thing, if that's really a question of how do we afford this or how do we do this, pick any church off Google Maps and go. I mean, just get into one of them. Mm-hmm. Obviously I recommend this one. I attended here when I lived in the area, but just pick any church and get yourself there. And, when you're comfortable, let them know that you could use some help. And a lot of times they're either going to have resources, counselors themselves, or a direction to point you to.
And that is one of the fear of people, quite honestly, especially our parents' generation, and maybe not so much now, but the fear of the stigma of going to counseling. Mm-hmm. People will know we're not doing good, or, afraid of them finding out and talking about us, whatever. Or even if you're in a small church, we don't want everybody else know what's going on. But how are you going to get better? It often takes a third party, someone who can help you understand each other and help you take steps to get better.
If you have my knees are hurting me. I got them x-rayed today. Okay, I'm just going to tell you. I got them x-rayed today. I'm going to find out what's going on with my knees. Whatever it is that your issue is in life, you go to somebody so that they can help you figure out how to fix it. So we've all got to get over that. I get it. They may not think that it's bad. Maybe you're listening to me right now and you're like, oh yeah, my wife or my husband or whatever says we really need to go to a counselor. I don't think we do. Listen, the smartest thing you can do, I don't care if you believe you do or not, be a good person, be a good spouse, and go with them. It's not going to hurt you. It's going to help you.
I'm going to throw something out there just maybe because it helps somebody make that decision. I do this show on Shine FM. Most of my time is spent running a business. And I found that I'm really nice to people who work for me, and I'm really hard on myself. And at some point in the next year, kind of when I can fit it in. I'm going to go to counseling over my relationship with me as a boss because I'm a hard person to work for.
Yeah.
And people might think that sounds nuts, but I know that there's some reason in there where I can be so much nicer to everybody else than I can to myself. And I might as well just get rid of that as opposed to deal with it for the next 30 years.
Absolutely.
Right. Why won't we take steps to help life be better and be the best wife I can be, or husband, or boss, or whatever it might be, to get coaching, counseling, whatever it takes.
This is Stronger Together. It's a show about growing in marriage, parenting, relationships, and community. We're talking marriage on this one, and specifically if you or somebody you know is going through a season where this is not fun, this doesn't look easy. I had a friend of mine who, thank God, I think they came out of this season, but he just said, I don't know how I do this for the next 40 years. He got married really young, and he said, I got married when I was 20. I'm 34. I don't know how I do this for the rest of the time. And and actually, I think that counseling was the key for them there. But you can be there, and then 18 months later, be having the best year of your life. I've seen it in a friend.
1 hour, and the next hour be in a different place. Let's just be honest. Our emotions they're gonna go one way or the other. We still have days, I know she does, where she's like, I can't do this for the rest of my life. Okay, we've been married for 34 years, and the rest of our life isn't even that long now.
Yeah.
But we still have those days. You just got to realize as you're going through those emotions, do you have the tools already to be able to understand why you're in that situation, and can you fix them? And if you don't, then go find them.
That's why you said there's not happily ever after, because just when you get things figured out, just like with kids, you enter a new stage of life, or maybe illness, fatigue. Those things, stress, all play into how your marriage dynamic works.
What's interesting? I mean, I know you guys are getting ready to have a baby, and that's like a game changer for a lot of people. It didn't affect us at all. If anything, our marriage was so tough in those early years that I would say probably when we started having kids, it actually started helping some things for us along the way, because there was a common goal. And I don't think that's an uncommon story. It's not like not everybody has this like euphoric honeymoon beginning to their relationship and then things deteriorate along the way. Some people get married and, it is what it is, and circumstances come and go, and there's no way to look at this ahead of time. One of the things we did, we went to counseling right after we dropped our youngest daughter off at college. The week after we had empty nest, we went and spent 5 days with a counselor friend going, okay, how are we going to be proactive about this new stage that we just got into? That's how much we believe in it.
That's some fantastic stuff right there. I didn't know you guys when you were going through that. And one of the reasons that specifically, there's a ton of people who have marriage books out there and stuff, right? But one of the reasons that, I wanted to kind of give you guys the Shine.fm audience on this topic is because, I've been around in your lives for like 15 years, and so if you're faking it, I probably would have figured it out.
Yeah.
I mean, now you're leading a church that's reaching thousands and thousands of people. That wasn't the case when we met, right. And by that point, you guys had kids, you were good. But take me back to the point where you said that the first time you did the counseling thing, your counselor was like quiet at like a lunch thing, just like ready to like lay his head on the table, and you exhausted him.
Yes.
And I would have never guessed that.
That was actually not the first time we'd been to counseling. That was when we went away to a counselor and unpack things in a way that you can really only do when you're away.
Right, and it's great for people in ministry. It's called the Blessing Ranch, and it is. We knew that Tim had met this counselor, and so we knew it was time for that.
But tell him rehash the experience.
Well, you arrive and you're there. You're going to be there 5 days, and you have 2 sessions a day. It sounds like going to the dentist.
Yeah. A little bit, yeah.
Horrible, yeah. And so we, by the end of the first day, then you have dinner together at this particular place. But you don't talk anymore about the day or what you did. But the counselor, John, he was about to fall over in his place.
He looked like a toddler going
And
to
the
sleep.
next day, he waited to tell us the next day. He goes, there is so much spiritual warfare going on around this. He goes, I was so drained, more drained than I've ever been before. And I'm ready, to hit it now and tackle it. But he recognized the spiritual warfare going on with us. So, yeah, it was huge.
And I get that too, because of how many amazing things have been birthed out of the fact that you guys are happy and good and not just muddling through it.
Right.
I mean, because this is at a time when, you were leading a church that wasn't that big, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you spent the first 8 years of your, in the Chicago area just kind of,
beating
your head against the wall.
Right. Yeah. I can't remember exactly how. We'd already relocated, so we were into a better season when we finally went and did this. But we started going to counseling early on. It's been 34 years. We
went to a couple of different ones, because what you have to remember is not every counselor is a good fit for you as a couple.
Right.
If you go to somebody and your husband just hates them and is not going to really be open to the suggestions, then find another one.
Yeah.
That's really important.
Yeah, just like a doctor.
So before we move on, let's go into the tools there. So this was a pretty big moment for you guys as far as happiness, wholeness of your whole family, right?
Yeah.
Was the guy that you exhausted.
Yep.
And
we worked together.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, she was on our staff. She was our worship programming director. So it was way deeper and way more impactful than even if it was just a normal pastor and his wife or a normal couple, because we worked together, which is also probably part of the problem. But it was had its good and its bad.
Exactly. Yeah, it was very challenging, because he would come off of a service and he'd be so frustrated with something that had happened or what a team member had done that was just fixable. So shouldn't have happened, let's say. But in his expressing this, he was so angry. Well, it was hard for me not to carry that emotion and take it personally and then reflect that emotion onto the next person. It took me a long time to figure out I don't have to own the same emotion that he feels. And he also learned along the way how to express things healthier and better. We all learn. Maybe. We all learn from our backgrounds. I mean, if we're honest, and what we're going to do with them going forward, whatever communication techniques or habits or whatever it might be, we have to decide if we're going to carry those same things from our past into our future. And you don't have to. That's what Jesus came for us, to give us freedom and new life in Christ. So.
I think you can actually, not that I have been married 20 years, but I think you can be married 20 years and maybe even just wake up with that realization that you're hanging on to this is the way things are because this is the way things are. And, and my parents did X, so that's just the way marriages are, or that's what I saw.
You can make excuses all day long.
Yeah. And the problem with 20-year mark, whatever it is, the reason we wanted to go to counseling when we hit the empty nest, even though everything was going great, was because, as we all know, a lot of times you can get to that. You and Amanda can raise all your kids and do all that kind of stuff and find out that everything had been focused on the kids, and now what do you have together? I mean, the empty nest is the most beautiful part of the whole deal, but if you guys aren't together in that, that's a place where a lot of divorces happen as well. So, it kind of all has to go together. You got to figure out where you are in this stage and look forward to the next stage, and if you need help to manage it, then get help managing.
And you know what? Let's go down that road for a minute here. By the way, this is Stronger Together. It's a show about growing in marriage, parenting, relationship, and community. Tim and Denise Harlow join me as we're talking through, going through a rough patch in marriage, rough season that lasts however amount of time, and then coming out of it and being really thankful and happy. And also, everybody else around you is blessed because you guys are in a good spot, right? So with your lives, when we talked about, you moved to the Chicago area, spent the first 8 years just kind of saying, why am I doing this? Frustrated, small church that wouldn't grow. And then all of a sudden, it worked really fast.
Right.
So you went from, a church of not very big to a mega church in a short amount of time.
Right.
So that's a season. And then you talk about kids going away to college, kids getting married, grandkids. That's a season, right? And so those are two big arcs, and in there, each year probably has its ups and downs. I'm in a position where Amanda and I've been married 3 years, and now she's working with my company full time, and so now we're doing the work together thing, right?
Yeah.
And then
As
baby,
long as you keep being a good boss to her and not yourself.
and then baby in October, different dynamics. So talk to me about those different seasons, and you almost have maybe not a whole new relationship, but it has to look a little different in each one of those times, right?
Yeah. We were just with my parents yesterday. I think they're getting along better than. I mean, they're both 80. They've been married for 59 years. I think they're in the best. They're in the best place in their marriage I've ever seen them to be. I mean, it's weird. I mean, it's just like going through these different stages. We are too. So I hope if we make it to 59 that we get to be in that place as well. The good times and the busy times are just as hard as the, early baby time and all that kind of stuff.
Well, and I think it'd be good to tell our listening audience that the lowest years of contentment in marriage are the baby years.
Oh, yeah.
And 4.5 months that starts.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Uh-huh. And if you go into it and when you're in the middle of it and you've both been sleep deprived and, you're just wits in what to do about certain situations and, you're not doting on each other and, you don't look as good as you used to during those seasons because you're
exhausted.
You're exhausted and you had a baby and all that stuff. But if you know it and you stick it out, after those baby years, tell them how it changes. The chart changes.
It's exponential. It just keeps getting better and better. But there are highs and lows, and there's a place where you're going to get busy, and then the charts definitely go. I mean, it bottoms out in the baby years, and then it continues to go up and to the right. But you got to go. Okay, there's a first one leaving for college. That was a rough thing on our marriage. Had one of our biggest fights ever on the way home from dropping Rachel off at, at college in Nashville. Just because the emotions were all wrapped up in there, and poor kids are in the back seat and we're yelling at each other, and it's all just the emotion of what you're going through. So yeah, I mean, little roller coaster stuff, but for the most part, the longer you're able to do this, the better it gets. It has been for us.
And you learn when to say, I can't talk right now. I'm just way too emotional. Give me some time to process this. I mean, some of us need process time. We don't even know what we're feeling. So learning yourself, learning what your spouse is about and their personality is just so key. And some of that takes a counselor and some of that just takes time, I would say.
Right.
I think one of the things that you guys are hitting on here, and I'm certainly not a mental health professional in any way, but one of the things that guests on this show have said who are in the mental health space is one of the things you can do to be a healthy person is just realize that whatever this season is, things just keep on rolling. And so, you've got two of your kids are in the kind of toddler phase right now. Yeah. One girl, one boy. So one of them's probably bound to be a little more destructive of furniture and stuff than the other.
Right.
Right?
I mean, my grandkids.
Yes, your grandkids. Your grandkids, yeah. So, you got you got grandkids, you got children that you're now instructing on. Here's how we got through it, right? And if your 2-year-old is slashing into the couch with a pair of scissors when you're not paying attention, that 2-year-old is going to be in kindergarten in 3 years, and you're going to be crying your eyes out when they walk through the door the first time. So it's just everything is just a season.
Right. My mom always said to me, "This too shall pass."
Right.
So. But you want to learn how to get better at it as you go as well. So
You know, being in my mid 30s, you hear all these horror stories when you're growing up in high school and you know, youth group, I think when they start kind of preparing you for relationships where it's like, you know, and now the divorce rate is 400 million%. It's
Exactly.
not
I know.
it's not actually true.
No, it's not.
And you know, if you got Christ as the center of things, or even if you don't, and you're just sort of showing up to church, even if you don't believe in you're showing up to church, you have better odds, right?
At least you care about something.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, but that's not what we're advocating, that you, you know, you just show up to church and not
Being
believe
open
it.
to something.
But being
is
open
what
to
we're
something,
talking
yeah.
about. Yeah.
And so what I have seen is I had this fear that, like, you know I can control my life, but I feared that I would see several of my friends get divorced because it's like, well, that's stats. I haven't. And I'm so thankful for that. What I have seen is I've seen some people come through some really rough stuff where I thought they were going to get divorced,
Right.
and they made it.
Right.
So, you know, obviously, you know, church of, you know, tens of thousands of people sometimes at major holidays.
Yeah.
What do you tell people when they're like, okay, we're pretty sure, like, this is our last stop. Like, this is just a formality. This is our last stop. It's probably, you know, not going to go. You've had those conversations.
Many times. Yeah. I mean, the funny thing is, as people of faith, it's the same discussion as it is for people that are not people of faith. You go to a counselor, I don't care whether they believe in God or not, they're going to say, look, you've put this much time and effort into it. If you will put time and effort into it going, yes, maybe it is the end. Yes, maybe it's not going to work out. But I can tell you that the odds are in your favor. And I'm not saying take God out of the equation, but I'm just saying even the people that don't have that in the equation, all of us know the odds are in your favor if you will keep going. Your happiness, just general happiness, is going to be better if you get through this than it is ever going to be if you give up. Those are just statistics. Your finances are going to be better if you will just keep going through this. Your mental health is going to be better. Okay, you can think, oh, there's somebody else out there. There's got to be something better out there. And then you look at the divorce rate for the next marriage. You look at it's exponentially more, right? Because at some point you're going to realize there is no perfect person out there. Mm-hmm. And if you've already chosen to make a life with this person, then keep making a life with this person, unless it's, a situation that is just irreparable, because you're going to be better off, period.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, I think another thing that I've maybe lived long enough to have seen now is I did see people get married that I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to the wedding, I'm buying the obligatory gift, but I'm like, and you've probably seen this too, right?
Here's
like,
the receipt, just in case.
And not that I'm advocating that you just get married in the face of a lot of obvious issues and it'll be fine. But one of the surprising things that nobody tells you when they tell you that the divorce rate's a bajillion percent is that you do see people who stick it out, get closer to Jesus, and somehow wind up like with a exemplary marriage that you would point to anybody and say, you be like those people, they're great. And on the day they said, I do.
I'm telling you. I mean, you not to point to us and say this is awesome, but I guarantee you, I am so glad that I stuck it out, and I'm so glad that she stuck it out. There's no way that I could be married to anybody else and be in the place where I'm at right now in my life.
Let's close this just because I love that you guys have talked about the different seasons. Can we close by just kind of talking about the different stages and what you wish you would have known? So just kind of newlywed, what you wish you would have known, and kind of walk forward. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So newlywed, you guys were in college, right?
Well, she was in the middle of college.
I was.
You were in the middle of
We were
college?
young, 22 and 20. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. That's
And we moved away from everybody. So that added a whole nother dimension. We were 5 hours from my family and 11 hours from hers. So we were off on our own doing ministry in Texas. Yeah.
I think
What would
it
you
would
say?
have. I think it would have been very helpful to have an understanding of his full personality and understand the pros and the cons, because you love the pros and you got to take the cons with the pros, you know, the downsides of them. And just to know that that's probably going to show up in this marriage, those cons. And you said, for better or worse, I think so many people have
They
this
assume.
Google-eyed vision of marriage.
They don't think the other person's going to leave a towel on the floor and it's going to drive them crazy. And
Yep.
I feel like
Somebody
all of our
thinks.
daughters went into it way better prepared than we did.
Yes.
And you know, and they're all married and I mean, healthy marriages. Yeah, that was it. We did a little bit of premarital counseling, but and I'm not saying that's the end of it all, but like there were no personality tests back then.
Mm-mm.
Well, you know, we didn't know how much we were going to clash.
Right.
We just, you know, clashed every once in a while. We didn't understand all those things. So man, I would find out everything you can about yourself, and you need to do that about why you're a bad boss to yourself, mister. You know, I would find out all of those things as much as you can. And even if you are married, find out all those things. We learned the love and respect principle so far into our
Great
marriage.
book, yes.
And how, you know, important, that's such a great book, and the whole idea of the fact that I need respect and she needs love, and we're different. We didn't know those things. So read all the books, do all that stuff as you're heading into that newlywed stage, and even, you know, the 3-year mark where you're at. I mean, you got to keep learning as much as you can. We still
Absolutely. Continually. I always love when I see people who've been married quite a few years still go to marriage retreats or something they might have at church for marriage, because you never arrive. You just keep trying to improve. Just keep at it. You'll always learn something that you can
Early
do.
baby years, we
Yeah,
kind of already talked about that. Just know it's going to be hard and awesome. I mean, there's nothing going to be any. Your life will never be the same, but it's going to be hard. And
so you spent a couple of years, like, you know, sleeping in on Saturday morning, getting up, going to brunch, going to a movie. You know, doesn't look exactly like that, but you can still be happy, and you just kind of have to adjust, right?
Exactly.
When your kids are in elementary and then middle school, and you start to get a lot of activities going on, right? And then all of a sudden you got multiple kids, like you're running one place, you're running the other place, and you're getting home at 8:39 at night, finally getting to see each other. What would you say about that stage?
Well,
don't do it.
we did try to limit how much our kids were involved in, which is really tricky with music kids, because when you're, like, if you're going to be in band, you also have to take an instrument and you have to practice the instrument.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's tricky whatever you do.
Exactly.
And they're always going to tell you, your coach or whoever is going to tell you, you got to do this and you got to do that. I would say don't do travel anything. Just let your kid do one sport at a time, and tell them they're not going to be an all-star, and they're probably not going to make the NFL, and you guys are going to enjoy your family, because the odds are that's going to destroy you if you run around
And
doing
to have
that.
time for imagination and play is
yeah.
huge.
Turn off the TV and the tablets and
Yes.
don't go to practice. That's what I'm saying.
I will say that, you know, in 2018 America, the pressure of like, oh, well, you got to get your kid in this to get ahead, happens before the child is born, because people have said stuff to me, and I'm like,
I know.
no.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm going to let this child be an infant and a toddler, and you know, and especially as somebody who played college basketball, there are 10,000 male students who play college basketball. 64 of them go on to play professional.
Exactly.
I don't think there's any camp my parents could have put me in that was going to make me into the NBA.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
No,
think
I've seen
parents,
your jump shot.
I think parents need to think long and hard about their motives for signing their kids up for certain things. I think that's a huge thing. Are you just trying to live vicariously? Are you trying to get your kids popular? Or whatever. Think long and hard, and what the health of your family is going to be like with that. Does that mean no more family dinners? Because that's a huge value for a strong family.
Right.
So really think about it before you sign your kids up.
and then let's just close by talking about kind of ushering your children into adulthood, because it really should. your kids should start to take the first steps towards adulthood at 15 or 16, right? Otherwise, they're going to be that kid that gets to college and they shove all their things in the washer and ruin all of them.
They should take their first step toward adulthood at age 5 or 6.
What?
I mean, seriously.
Basic responsibility.
Basic responsibility.
Yes,
teach them
definitely.
how to be a human being. Teach them, they need to know. They need to know that they've got chores. They need to know
Yes.
how to manage money. They need to know how to do all these things early on. Then when they get older, it's just natural. You don't wait till they're 15 and then try to figure out how they're going to be adults, because they're going to be at a deficit.
It is true.
Yeah, an extreme example, I was teaching a college course when I was 28, and I had a 25-year-old's mom call me about her grade. And I'm like, okay, I think it's kind of too late. For whatever you were supposed to do as a parent, we've passed that line.
Yes.
Yep.
So just in that helping your kids into adulthood stage, what do you say about that?
Let natural consequences pay out.
Mm-hmm.
And let your kids experience those. Don't be bailing them out, or they won't learn that there are consequences to their actions.
Yeah.
And so
You're enabling.
You
I mean, we sound like we were harder on our kids than we were. Well, maybe I wasn't as hard as I should have been. But, I
was
mean,
the hard
we taught them along the way so that when they got to that point, and that was a big deal for us, we wanted them to be in the things that we wanted them to be in. They were in the public school because we thought that was a good combo for them at that point, and they could learn how to be grown-ups. And then when they went to be grown-ups, they did it, and they did well. And there's always going to be life lessons at that point, but they did really well.
And honestly, the younger they are, when you start teaching them responsibility and character and being strict with them with total unconditional love, they have to feel that. When they get to high school, you are able to trust them more and give them more, loosen the reins, I should say.
Yeah.
While they're in your house, and it's much, much greater joy in your family. And then it's not a shock when they go to college. So.
And I'm guessing too, like when you do it right, by the time your kids are in high school too, like you guys have more time because they don't because your kids are good.
They're good and they're busy, and I'm serving at church, and
we
I'm
still had
doing
deadlines.
this,
We still did all those things, but the empty nest was not a shock for us because, they were adults before they left our house. They were responsible before they left our house. They knew how to take care of things before they left our house. So that abrupt change wasn't like, we don't have to do, we don't have to do laundry and all that stuff anymore. I mean, they knew how to do all that. So it was a much easier transition for all of us.
This is Stronger Together. It's a show about growing in marriage, parenting, relationship, and community. Tim and Denise Harlow join me. We've been talking through the different stages of marriage, and also if you're in a really rough season, how to come out on the other side of that, and everybody around you be better off because you found happiness and wholeness and a way to make it work and a way to heal. Parkview Christian Church in the southwest suburbs of Chicago, if you want to check out some more information on that. Tim, you're kind of in the middle of books right now. Just if I can shout out, your first book is called Life on Mission, and your second one, I don't know if you want to say anything about it. I mean, you'll come back on and talk about it when it's out.
It's going to be a year from now.
Okay. You don't even want to say the title of anything. And
it's a book about unicorns.
It's
going to be awesome.
A Christian take on unicorns.
Great.
And then Denise, if you just want to give us your blog and podcast, and also put it in the show notes, but for the people listening on the radio that can't click through.
It's to encourage Christian women in their leadership, whether they're serving at a church or in a lay position or on staff or married to a pastor. It's womentum.net or deniseharlow.com.
And I've never said this before, but if you know somebody that just needs this episode, you can go back. If you're listening on the radio, you can grab this as a podcast by searching Shine.fm podcast wherever you subscribe to audio, or search Shine.fm on Facebook or YouTube. This may not be the conversation that's hitting you right now, but you may have a friend who's going through it who needs it, and you can share this whole thing with them. This is Shine.fm.
That was Stronger Together. a show about growing in marriage, parenting, relationships, and community. Subscribe to the Shine.fm podcast to catch every episode of Stronger Together, available on the iTunes podcast app and wherever podcasts are available.